So I recently just reached over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and honestly, it's so crazy to me to think about the fact that 1,000 of you decided that you want to just watch me ramble and talk and share my thoughts about anime. Honestly, I appreciate every single one of you. All of you that have commented, liked, engaged in any of my videos, subscribed. I just appreciate it so much. If you guys have any suggestions on your topics that you want to see me discuss, or any animes that you want me to watch and talk about, I'd really love to hear it. I always love hearing the suggestions that you guys have. Excuse the voice if it sounds a bit weird. I have just been getting over a pretty bad cold. I've had it for like a week now, and it just doesn't want to leave me alone. I'm now well over halfway through One Piece at the moment, and honestly, I don't know where the time has gone. I started nearly a year and a half ago. Between watching the episodes and creating these videos, it really has had an impact on my life. To be honest, I actually thought I would never start One Piece. I was very intimidated by the number of episodes, like I'm pretty sure most people are when they first start watching One Piece. But because of all the hype that was surrounding it at the time last year, I was like, all right, you know what? I need to give it a go. Like I've started really getting into anime, and I can't keep going on with watching anime without watching One Piece. I've watched Bleach, so that was one of the other big three. I've watched Naruto, and now I'm like catching up to One Piece. The last one is Dragon Ball. I watched every single episode of Naruto, even the filler, and it seriously paid off in the end. It became literally one of my favorite animes. I was like, you know what? Let's start One Piece. Let's give it a go. I've heard so much about it. And then here we are. Now I am obsessed. I won't be going too much into depth into the arcs because I've done that with all my past videos. So if you do want to watch that and see all my thoughts, you can binge this playlist. This is more of like my overall thoughts so far over the past year and a half, 2 years. The first few sagas, East Blue, Alabasta, Skypiea, they had some really great moments, but I think what really captured my attention during those first few sagas is the world building and just the adventure that you go on in each different arc. One minute you're in these beautiful snow-capped mountains, bawling your eyes out over the story of a talking reindeer. Then the next you're in this blistering desert watching Luffy kick the butt of some guy that just transforms into sand. And then the next moment you're transported to a literal city in the sky above the clouds that are controlled by this god with the power of thunder. It really made me excited for what was to come, all of the adventures that I was going to go on. It was a great setup to kind of lead into that. But there definitely were times that felt like a bit of a slog. Some episodes and some parts, the pacing was a bit slow. It didn't really get to things quite quick enough. But, you know, I was like, I know that this is just, the adventure is there. This is amazing. I'm going to keep watching it. Then Water 7 happens, and this for me was like a turning point in how I viewed One Piece. It went from this really light-hearted adventure with these kids to a story with a lot of substance and this emotional payoff. Robin's devastating backstory and the revelation at the end of it will just forever be some of my favorite moments in One Piece, and it made me really, appreciate the story and see a different side to One Piece. And honestly, Robin will now be my favorite character for I don't know how long. She still is my favorite character, over 700 episodes through now. That was a very pivotal moment, and not only was that kind of centered around her and the just incredible storytelling, but it was also a turning point for the Straw Hats, where we see them grow within their abilities and start to see them work together a bit more as a team and a bit more cohesive with each other. They really showcased their abilities and their power. The heartbreaking tone shifts a little bit when we move to Thriller Bark Saga, and this for me, I loved Thriller Bark. I really did. If you've watched some of my other videos, you've heard me talk about this probably 500 times now. I just love the creepy feel of Thriller Bark, the ghosts, the adventures that they go on and bump into the zombies, and the mystery surrounding the island, and everything is just spooky. I love it. It was great. And then also, being introduced to Brook and him becoming an addition to the Straw Hats. Not only did it have like those really cool adventure aspects to it, but I feel like the saga overall was so important to the Straw Hats development, and, continuing on from Water 7, it was showcasing all of their abilities, and it really honed in on all of them finally kind of working together and picking out each other's strengths and weaknesses and making up for them. So that was what I really liked seeing, and especially the end with with Zoro, but I won't go into too much detail. But yeah, it was really cool getting introduced to all of these different characters, getting introduced to some more warlords. Then there's the Summit War saga, and that included, like Amazon Lily, Impel Down, Marine Fid, the post-war arc, and this whole saga was just incredible. It really, really was. There was so much character development, and there were all of these different characters that were being introduced within that time frame that is going to continue on with the story. It's just so much happened, and the emotional impact of the whole saga, it really, really made me like, wow, Robin's whole backstory and all of what happened in his lobby was kind of like a, wow, okay, One Piece is a bit deeper than I thought it was. And then there was this saga where it was like, there's a lot going on here. And this whole show is just actually really amazing. It kind of made me reflect on the rest of the sagas and everything that built up to that point. But this saga, it had me laughing, it had me crying, it had me just yelling at the screen. Yeah, I've actually picked up this really weird habit with One Piece where like I will talk during the episodes. Like I don't do this with any other show, but when something is happening, I'm like, Luffy, or like I'll just be sitting there like, no way. And then like, I don't know, like talking to no one, but yeah, it's got me like talking like that to myself, and then that's how I know that I'm really getting into something and I'm really enjoying something. And the Sabaody arc, like so much happened in that, such a small arc. It's had these satisfying moments, it had these moments that made me angry. It was just like an up and down roller coaster, and also terrified, like what is going on here. All of the pre-time skip sagas and the arcs are just, they're great. And honestly, there obviously are some slow episodes, there's some slow times, some slow moments, but it's nostalgic to me. I look back on it, I'm like, oh, even though I just finished it a few months ago, it feels so nostalgic. There's so many aspects to like the character development, the story development, characters that are introduced that I know I'm going to see later on, some that I have already seen in like Dressrosa, and I'm like, what? But yeah, it was an insane ride. And then we venture into the new world, which is like starting off with Fishman Island, and it kind of turned around the pacing. I feel like because of coming off the bat of post-war of Marine Fid, where everything is like go, there's so much pressure, there's so much at stake, and then they get to Fishman Island and it takes a step back a little bit. It starts off a bit slower in a way, and I loved it, don't get me wrong, like I loved Fishman Island, and although that there were parts for me that were quite slow, the ending did pay off and everything clicked with at the end of the whole the saga and arc. And then we go into the Punk Hazard arc, which is I think a part of the Dressrosa saga that I'm still currently in. But if we go into the Punk Hazard arc, it also was quite, I wouldn't say it's slow, because things actually did start to pick up a little bit, and it had like a lot of characters being introduced. It wasn't as like this is really great, but it started to pick up a little bit. And now that I am in Dressrosa, I don't know if we're now past halfway, but now I've literally nearly finished Dressrosa. I think I've got like 30 episodes left. Keep a lookout for part 1 of my Dressrosa review that will be coming out soon. Anyway, Dressrosa has just been another world. It's just leaps and bounds, I feel, beyond Fishman Island and Punk Hazard. Yes, there were really good arcs, but Dressrosa is jam-packed. There is a lot in it. A lot happens. It has just been a bit of a roller coaster, to be honest, and it's kind of going back into the hype of One Piece for me, and what made me really start to like One Piece in the first place, the amazing storytelling. But I feel like Fishman Island, and especially Punk Hazard, set up for this whole new chapter of One Piece. And honestly, I cannot wait to keep going. I just love One Piece, if I haven't said that enough. This whole video to say, like, those who have, well, if you've already watched One Piece, which I know a lot of you have, you know, you've caught up to One Piece, or you're at least in One Piece watching it at some point, to either watch this and reminisce about how great the pre-time skip arcs were and how great One Piece is. But to those of you who have never watched One Piece, I hope that I can encourage you to start. the intimidating number of episodes, it just dwindles away once you start. Yes, you get up to episode 50 and you're like, I've got 1,100 episodes to go. I don't know how I'm going to do this. But once you get really into it and you start watching, you can't stop. You really can't stop. Take that from me. It is an adventure of a lifetime. You'll be crying, you'll be laughing, you'll be having an absolute ball watching One Piece. And I seriously encourage you to start. I really just would recommend watching One Piece every single episode. I know that's going to be like so controversial, maybe. You just like watching every episode, and sure that there are some episodes that you can skip where it's, you know, movie related, or I don't know, there's a random Dragon Ball crossover episode, which I didn't watch, but yeah, there's some that you can skip. But watching every episode gets you really familiar with all of the characters and allows you to understand them in a completely different way. The moments when they're just floating around on the ship and they're relaxing, having a good time, something then just randomly happens and it's just completely not even a part of the story. You get to see little glimpses of what their personality is like, how they interact with different people, the development of their story. And it means that once you get to 1,100 episodes, even halfway you get to 700 episodes, all of that pays off. And you just feel like, wow, like I've watched so many episodes, and you feel like you have been beside them this whole time. Like you have been on the ship and you've been with them this whole time. It's like they become a part of your life. And that is why I feel like it's so important to watch every single episode. Anyways, I feel like that's probably enough of me rambling on about One Piece, because I can't seem to shut up about it when I start talking. I hope that you'll have a really great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.